All right, so in this video lesson, we're going to be solving the poll for response challenge. And in this challenge, we have these two variables defined for us, this response object and this result variable. And what's going to happen when we run the code is that the tests are going to update this data field to have some value. And they're going to do that at some time in the future. And we have this hint which is telling us that this is going to happen in less than 2 seconds. And so what we want to do is we want to create an interval which is going to monitor this response object and detect when the data field changes. So when this field changes from null to having some other value. And whenever that happens, what we want to do is we want to update this result variable to be whatever that data value was. So whatever this changes to, we want to store that in this result variable here. And once that happens, we also want to clear this interval. So we want to cancel this interval from still running. Okay, so to do this, we are going to write the setInterval method name here, and we're going to pass in a handler. And so we can just write an inline arrow function right here. And what we want to do inside of our handler is we want to say if the response.data is not equal to null, then this value has changed. And so then what we want to do is we want to say the result is equal to the response.data. Okay, and then we also want to cancel this interval. So we can say clear interval, and we need to pass in the ID of this interval. And we're going to get that ID as the result of calling setInterval. So we can say const interval ID is equal to setInterval. And then we can take that ID and pass it in to the clearInterval method. All right, and so that's going to update our result variable and then cancel this interval. Okay, and the last thing we need to do is we need to tell this setInterval method how frequently it should run. And so we can pass that in as a second argument here, and we can use 250 milliseconds. So this will basically be 1/4 of a second, which will cause this interval to run 4 times per second. And so that should allow us to detect this change, which is going to happen in less than 2 seconds. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and run the code. And now you'll see that this passes the tests. So after a brief delay for the code to actually execute, this does in fact pass the tests. So this is how we can use the setInterval method to write some kind of polling logic. So basically what we're doing here is we're essentially defining a polling logic, which is saying, okay, check this over and over again until some condition is met. And then once that condition is met, then basically take some other action and then cancel the polling behavior. And we could, of course, use a different number here, but we need to use some value, which is going to allow us to detect the change in less than 2 seconds. So if we used 5 seconds, for example, we may not be able to detect the change correctly. But we could put something else, like, for example, 100, and that also is going to work. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video, and we will see you in the next video.